romance. There are times in ministry I feel like Mr. Papadopoulos, where I'm walking around with a bottle of Windex going, this will take care of it, this will take care of it, this will take care of it. My big fat Greek wedding. You know? I looked up my, some people made immediate recognition and some people went, what is he talking about? But you know, God has made provision in the biblical feast. We are a Judo-Christian church, which means we have historical Jewish roots. And if you study the biblical feast, you see an amazing thing. First of all, you will discover that Jesus taught them. A lot of his teaching, you know, when he was dealing with the candles and dealing with the blind guy, what was he talking about? Hanukkah. You know, I mean, it's duh. When he was walking around after the 40 days, after he arose from the dead, he's going, look at my hands, look at my side. What was he celebrating? First fruits. Giving God glory for how God provided, God met needs. Well, today's message is entitled A Clean Sweep, because we're in the Lenten season, which is also correlating to Passover. And part of the Jewish culture is they go nuts with cleaning all the junk out of their house. Any schmutz that would be there that would create leaven, they clean it all out, every nook and cranny. Where do they got spring cleaning from? Well, when it comes to our relationships and our walk before the Lord, we need to take a personal inventory on an annual basis and saying, you know what? What's not affecting the positive here? What is some of the stuff in my life right now that I need to sweep out? So today, I'm going to challenge you. The homework assignment at the end of the service is for you to go home and say, what channels do I need to now block? What programs? I'm a huge fan. I love the Big Bang Theory. You know, I really do. I think it's hilarious. First of all, I pastor a Big Bang church. I have more geeks and artists and weird and comic book people under the sun. Half the time I have no clue what you guys talk about in your conversations. And I had this one conclusion watching it one night with my kid going, oh snap, I'm Penny. You know? I mean,
percentage of number of people in the church.
yeah, I'm just, you know, it's just, you know, anyway. But you know, that program's filthy. And I turned it on last night, and it was horrible. I'm going, there's way too much sexual innuendos here. This is not a healthy program. And it's like, snap, why do all the cool characters have to go either gay or sexually weird? I'm like, why? Why? Can't we just have fun in an intellectual way? So it's a program I'm going to really start blocking. And I feel bad because I got my Flash t-shirt now. You know? Why am I saying that? Because there is stuff that might be high quality comedy that you might be watching that isn't good for you. That's not healthy. It's not creating an environment, as Paul said in Philippians, that is creating a mind of excellence. So we have to exercise Romans 12, where what? We renew our mind. And sometimes that means making that hard decision and saying, snap, man, I'm not watching you anymore, I'm blocking you. I'm blocking you. I just, you know, you have that ability on your channels, on your cable, on your DVR, you can go, I'm not watching that. I'm not listening. You know, I have a radio program that is secular. I'm a secular DJ now. I'm a late night radio host. And I play secular music, but I copiously sit down. I go through every single song. Is this song edifying? If it is not, I don't care how popular it is, it ain't making my playlist. But it takes effort. It's extra work. But it's the right thing to do. We have a movie right now that is extraordinarily popular. It did $98 million its first weekend. Shades of Grey. Now, it was in 2011 the 8th bestseller of all time. It's currently number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. It's been on the bestseller list for 75 straight weeks. It's sold 100 million copies, surpassing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by 15 million copies, and is fast to approaching The Hobbit. And in 4 years, it has outsold every Christian book other than the Bible in the last 65 years. There is one theater in Ireland that has 12 movie theaters that seats 3,500 people, and they are showing that movie only because it's that hot and that in demand. But here's the thing about the 50 Shades of Grey. It's pornography. It's about a relationship with a man, a married man, and a woman who's married. It's about S&M. It's horrible. It's a horrible context. And I'm like, it's rated R? Shouldn't this be rated X? Now, I became acquainted with this book, a couple years ago, when at Strathaven High School it showed up on the 10th grade reading list, along with the thing about Karma Sumatra. I'm like, and I discovered this by walking into my living room where my wife's head was exploding. You know, Mama Bear was reviewing the 10 books that we were going to have to check out of the library that summer. And being a writer, being an artist, she is sometimes more culturally adapted than I am. Because I read military history books, I read strategy books, I read books about business, I read Christian books. You know, I read my 40 books a year, but I don't read for fun, I read to feed my mind, okay? So I don't get to look at what are the, you know, the best-selling list stuff, you know? But however, the people who pick the books at Strathaven put this on the list. And not only was it on the list, it was one of the books they were going to talk about in class. This is why we as believers need to be involved in our culture. You know where that list came from? Moms who volunteer to work with the teachers to put together recommended book lists. You want your kids in your elementary school to have great activities and awesome, what's the word I'm looking for? The school assemblies. Volunteer to be a parent to serve on those committees in picking the artists and artisans and the topics that come into your schools. I'm at the back end of that. I have a daughter who turns 18 today and graduates, you know, high school in just a couple months. Congratulations, by the way. She got her acceptance letter to North Greenville.
It's turning 18 tomorrow, though.
I'm very proud of her. But as a pastor and someone who's an influencer in the community, we are about to step out of, we are becoming the irrelevant people. If you're over 55, Nielsen doesn't care about you. You know? They don't care. You know, you're not, you know, it's just, they poll people 18 to 34. They don't poll people like me now. I'm a grandfather age. You know, so I no longer will have kids in the school system. I think I'm supposed to celebrate that. No, but those of you who still have grade school kids and kids in high school, you cannot be too busy to not get involved. If you're going to get married and you're going to have kids, get involved. Watch TV. With my kids, I watched cartoons with my kids when they were growing up. Programs like Fairy Godparents. No, programs like that. Dexter's Laboratory. All those programs. What was the number one thing they were teaching our kids? Dad is stupid. Do you want your kids to be bombarded with messages that are, your father's stupid? Go to mom. Only mom has answers. Or even worse, go to that weird school teacher to get your advice. Your parents don't know any better. That's the messages a lot of the Disney Channel cartoons are dealing with. Then there's the whole yoki yoki oh stuff, you know? All that mystical oriental stuff. Do you realize, now I have friends who are into anime. I have friends who write manga. One of our best friends for 26 years, was the cartoonist for Archie. And he now travels the world teaching cartooning to people, you know? I have a lot of friends who are believers who are also in that medium. And here's the problem. The majority of the stuff that is coming from Japan and Korea and China include Eastern religion, mystical beliefs that they're teaching the kids. Forecasting spells and that kind of stuff. All that witchcraft stuff is woven into that. What do my friends do? They teach people how to weave Christian characters into their stories. Not that the work is a Christian novel or a Christian anime, that has a Christian character. Why do I say all this? Because what's impacting our lives? Our TV, our movies, the books we read, the music we listen to. The average young person, if you're a parent, hear me. Here's who your kids are learning from. They spend 5.5 hours a day at school. They spend 6 to 7 hours in some sort of technology, either on the internet or on cable TV or listening to music. That's 13 hours a day that they're getting input from society. The average dad, according to Focus on the Family, spends an average of 17 minutes of quality communications a week with their kids. So dad, you're spending 17 minutes with your kid a week in quality communication. And you're probably not teaching them Bible at that time. But yet, 13, 14 hours a day, they're being bombarded with culture. 7 days a week. Even so, I was at chapel this week at Liberty. I'm sitting there, and I had 9 people around me online playing video games while the preaching was going on. I'm a high-tech guy. I love technology in church because many of you bring your Bible on your phone. But how many of you this morning are sitting out there looking at a video game right now? Just saying. Conviction. It's wrong. Issue. We're going to talk a little bit about lust. The images, the word pictures, the music. I'm into culture, I'm into the arts. But the images that you allow into your heart and mind, you will never get out. Ever. Ever. Miss March, 1971. She was from California. She was 23 years old. She liked playing beach volleyball. You think I kid? That's the first Playboy image I ever found under my dad's bed. And to this day, I remember her bio and a few other things. There's so much pornography in our society that has created an unhealthy lust in every single one of us. Titus chapter 2, it says, teaching us, denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly. And I'm not a prude. I'm a practical man. The Bible says that we should live soberly, rightly, and godly. That first soberly is, you need someone to take a wet fish and smack you upside the head. Because you need to realize and live soberly and realize there is an enemy. He is real. He's playing for keeps. He might not take your soul to hell now, but he's going to try to destroy your life. He's going to try to weave things into your life that are bad habits that become sin. He's going to set you up to see images on a regular basis. I love football. But you know something? I have not watched a Super Bowl halftime show in 15 years. Because I won't. I used to leave the room to get the snacks for my kids when we were watching a movie or something like that during the commercial. And then one day I walked in. We were watching some sort of really sweet little innocent fairy movie, Disney with my little girls. And I walked in, and at 7:30 they were advertising a really off-color show that was pornography, kind of violently driven, that was going to be on some other channel at 10 o'clock. And I'm like, they are allowing some of the worst shows that you will never let your kids watch being advertised on kids' channels. Why? Because the enemy wants to entice kids to get involved in stuff. Video games. I used to run an outreach center for kids, and we had 7 video games. Let me tell you something. Video games will teach your kids the wrong morals. Now listen, there's sports video games. I like Call of Duty. There's some stuff out there that's it's really creative and really good. But if you are having your kids playing Grand Theft Auto, take the game and burn it. Why? It's teaching kids wrong morals. It's teaching kids that it's okay to snuff out a life. It's teaching kids it's okay to steal a car. It's beating down the society norms that women are cheap and expendable and can be owned. I do not know a woman that has looked at Grand Theft Auto that hasn't gone nuts and wanted to pick up a hammer and bash the game. And there's probably another 45, 50 games out there like that you need not have in your house. Another thing that we've been talking about, we did something really bizarre as a family. Now, I've been called a prude. I've been called a hard man. I've been called unreasonable. I've been called stuck in the mud, whatever. But in my house, I practice the Steve Jobs principle. Do you know Steve Jobs wrote a position paper on how that he would never let his kids ever have technology until they were old enough to be able to manage it? Any technology. Founder of Apple, the creator of the problem, says, I'm making, they have $17 billion in cash. Their balance sheet said this week. But the man who created all that, who was a Buddhist, who was an atheist from the standpoint of a Christian standpoint, said, this shall never be in my hands of my children until they are 18 and perfectly capable of handling it. Wow. Profound. We have a rule in my house, no technology in your room. Any of it, anywhere. You may have it, you may use it, but you cannot lock it out, mom and dad. I have the right to take your phone and see who you're talking to. I have the right to see what images you're loading on your phone. And if I don't like it, there's a delete button that dad or mom will delete. Am I right, Mary?
Yes,
I can see a little head bobbing up and down back there. But we have done even more than that. We have a technology station in our house. It is in the living room. Before you go to bed at night, all of your technology is plugged in to the station and doesn't go to your room. Why? Because you will stay up all night and talk to a friend in Greece or Germany. We had to go to the extreme with our I'm celebrating your birthday, Mary, by telling our secrets with you. And no, I'm not buying you dinner. I bought you dinner yesterday. And there was a point in time when we were discovering that she was standing up all night reading. Not bad books, just reading. You know what we had to do? We took all the books out of her room. All of them. Why? Because she, by the way, she wears bifocals now. She is 17, turning 18 tomorrow. She has bifocals. Why? She has damaged her eyes to the point where she reading all night with a flashlight under the covers. Okay?
Daddy, I hate you.
So what I'm saying is that if that is how we have to live with our kids, so our kids can be raised healthy and morally and love Jesus, and we have to go to those extremes, what extremes do you have to go for yourself? Medical studies have shown that pornography, they've studied how the brain functions. People who have been exposed to long periods of use of pornography have the same brainwave function as anybody who has an addiction to drugs or alcohol. Do you know they've done a study on video games, and it's the exact same pattern. If you do anything long enough that's not healthy, you will drop into the addiction mode. Our society does not understand that. So what is lust? Since we're talking about it. There's a verse that says, just as Solomon and Gomorrah and the cities around them, since they were the same way, and these folks indulged in gross immorality and went after strange flesh, are exhibited as examples in the undergoing punishment of eternal fire. Yet in the same way, these men also by dreaming defiled the flesh, rejected authority, and revel in angelic majesties. People get caught up in this stuff. And here's where we come to the word lust. Whenever you hear the word porn, substitute the four letters, L-U-S-T. You hear porn, substitute lust. You hear food, substitute lust. I haven't touched social networking and food yet. I will in a second. The word lust comes to this. The definition, there's a two-part definition. Definition one, this is, by the way, not a Christian definition, but Webster's. Intense or unrestrained sexual craving. But there's a part two, and this is the part two one that I want to focus on. An overwhelming desire or craving. How bad has lust become in our society? How many people get bothered? Do you know that there's a problem nationally now in restaurants where the service in restaurants has slowed down by 22 minutes per restaurant, per customer, because people say, hold on, I want to take a picture of my food and I want to text it. That's lust. That's lust. We have channels. We don't have one Food Network channel. We have 7. Why? And what are the things? Does it taste good? Does it remind you of the recipe? And does it look good? It's food porn. Food Network, Alton Brown, he's a believer. But he's propagating porn. Think about it. Iron Chef, it's porn. People.
The C.S. Lewis, it reminds me of the C.S. Lewis quote where he talks about how someone who goes to like a burlesque show, that's almost as ridiculous as like going to a culture where someone like sets some delicious food out on the table and like slowly pulls like the food off and then never eats it.
Yes.
It's like that is our life now.
They have restaurants now with naked people that they serve as tables where you eat the food off their belly.
What?
Yes, I saw that on the Rich and Famous channel. I'm like, what? It's in America. What? Listen to me. I am not trying. Listen, church people overwhelmingly either do two extremes. We either totally ignore whatever the problem is, which is, by the way, 80% of the time. And then you get the fighting fundamentalists that beat everybody to death with a dead fish. I'm saying we need to have a much more reasonable approach, and God has provided for it. The goal of each person who has put his faith in Jesus Christ is to become more and more like him every day. This means putting off the old way, which is a life of sin that was over-controlling us, and confronting one's thoughts and actions to the standard put forth in Scripture. That's what we're called to do. We're called to live soberly, justly, and vigilantly. You and I have to take a look at our lives and say, what isn't good for me? God can't do it. God doesn't. The Holy Spirit is not a policeman. He is not going to walk into your life, put the handcuffs on you, and chain you to a wall so you don't go after the temptation. It's on you. You have to sit down and say, that isn't healthy. I have a heart condition. Because of it, I may never have caffeine ever again in my life. God has said to me, you've had all the caffeine at 55 years old, you have had all the caffeine that any human being can ever have in 100 years, so you can't have any more. You know what that means? No more chocolate. I'm a chocoholic. Do you know, drinking decaffeinated coffee and tea was not the problem. It was Hershey bars for me to give up. I love candy. I love dark. See, to me, it wasn't a cup of coffee. It was a dark piece of Swiss chocolate. That kind of stuff that you bake cookies out of, you know, that bitter stuff. I love that. But the caffeine's off the chart. I can't have it. It's not good for me. I can't have it ever again. White chocolate, I've tried. Doesn't cut it. You know? By the way, Reese cups now come in white chocolate. It's just not the same. Anyway. You see, the enemy, the satanic world, and there is a satanic world, has so permeated our society. You know, he's the prince of power of the air waves. He really is. His mission is to normalize sin, to make it to feel normal. You know, you go to work. Now, I don't work a real job anymore. I work a whole bunch of little jobs. But I don't go to an office. I spent 18, 20 years in corporate America where you had the water cooler with a coffee pot and everyone telling all the dirty stories and you're shunning and you're trying to get away from it. By lunchtime, you feel like you need a shower. You know, I'm not in that environment. I'm on a university campus. I'm in an arts building. You know, it's steroids, you know, when it comes to the images and stuff. And it affects you, has a lasting impact. Now, I consider myself a warrior. You know, I'm a missionary. I have battle gear on. I'm going out into society, into culture, trying to reach them for Jesus Christ. I'm prepared. I'm a warrior. And it still bothers me. It's still images I can't get out of my head. It's still stuff that, oh, that's a temptation. You know, it's still stuff that I have to deal with. And if I'm a warrior, and if I'm battle ready, and I'm prayed up, and I have the verses memorized in my head, and I'm walking out there trying to deal with it, and it's affecting me, how's it affecting you poor slobs who are lazy, who aren't praying every day, who aren't in the Word, who don't have systems and protocols set up in your life to protect yourself from this stuff? You are going to get eaten for lunch, chewed up, spit out, like a hairball that the cat puked. Seriously. Seriously. And here's the thing, it's going to destroy your relationships. Exodus 12:15 says this, "For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day remove the yeast from your houses, and whoever eats anything with yeast in it is from that first day to the seventh day will be cut off from Israel." This is part of the Passover process. God said, prepare your hearts. How do you prepare your hearts? He said to go to the extreme of cleaning your house up to anything that has yeast. They literally literally when you look at Jewish law, it talks about every single crumb in the crack on the floor. I'm going to butcher the word, but I have a Jewish friend in the room. Is it schmatz? Schmutz. Is it CHAM? ETZ? How's that pronounced?
You're talking about schmutz, right?
I'm talking about the stuff we're supposed to get rid of.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. I found like 11 different spellings.
Don't go together.
Yeah.
They're just kind of jammed together.
Yeah.
It's a good description of schmutz.
Unfortunately, in the Jewish culture today, there's so much, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not normal words, but made-up words that are nickname words and that kind of stuff. So it gets a little confusing when you see it spelled 7 different ways. But the bottom line is that if we're to keep the feast, if we are to celebrate the Messiah is coming, that our deliverance is coming, we're supposed to prepare our hearts. Just like with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Jewish New Year and and the high holy day of atonement, the Day of Atonement, we are supposed to go out and make mitzvah and do good deeds and prepare our hearts to celebrate what God has done in our lives. The same way with the Passover. We're supposed to prepare our hearts. And here's the thing. You and I need to sit down, because it's Easter season, and not give up something for Lent. Give up fish sticks. I don't care. I gave up Lent one year because I thought it was ludicrous that this whole principle was so legalistic. But the whole point I'm trying to make here is you need to sit down and do a spiritual inventory in your life. Because TV channels change. Programs change. Characters in your books change. Movies change. And sit back and say, you know what? I can't look at that one anymore. It's off my list. I know something. I need to block that channel. They might have a couple good programs on it, but you know what? I don't want my kids stumbling into any of the bad ones. You need to sit back and do a spiritual inventory. It says this, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts, and see if there is any downward way in me. Lead me to a way of everlasting. That's Psalm 139. You need to prove God in your life. This morning, you need to take some steps to protect yourself from you. Do a spiritual inventory. That's the whole point I want to leave you with this morning. You need to go on a hunt. And not just clean sweep your life, and get every little dust ball from under the bed, You need to look at what is affecting you right now in your life. Every year we have this opportunity because of the holiday. We have a once-a-year opportunity. If we haven't done it any other time in our life, we can sit down with our spousal unit, we can sit down with our kids, we can find out what's affecting us positively and negatively and say, you know what, that was okay 3 years ago, but it's changed. I can't let that in my life. We have a rule in my house. I'm not allowed to buy potato chips. It's not good for me. I had a brother who owned a hoagie store. He doesn't anymore, but even that, I don't eat hoagies anymore. I've lost almost 30 pounds. My goal is 100. Why? Because I want to dance one day at my daughter's wedding. I want to be healthy. I want to live. I don't want to die, show up in heaven, and Jesus and the gang is sitting there going, dude, you're early. What are you doing here? I want to accomplish all that he has for me. And I realize there's some stuff in my life, whether it's food, whether it's habits, wherever it's when I'm feeding my heart and mind, consuming intellectually, that I need to test the waters and sit back and say, that's not good for me any longer. I can't have chocolate anymore. I've had enough for my lifetime. So what is it that you need to do? Pursue God this week. You guys can come up. And I'll be back.